coming up to 5 years since I did this whole Rail Cables project where I asked musicians to make music inspired by train travel. So I thought it'd be interesting to come up with some little videos which talk about the different musicians, because I realised I never really did anything like this when I did it in that year. The initial inspiration for the whole project came about because I was listening to an album by Greg Fox called Mitchell Transmission. And it was put out on Data Garden, an amazing label that comes up with lots of seed variations for plants that are supposed to complement the music. So when you buy an album by them, they'll send you out some seeds. So you plant the download card, and then these nice plants come out that they think suits the music. And that's how I found out about Greg Fox, actually, through that. So I didn't realise he was this amazing drummer, but anyway, I'll come back to him. It was listening to that album by Greg Fox on a train down to London that the music made total sense with the rail cables, and they synchronized up perfectly, and it got me thinking, I wonder if I should email a load of my favourite musicians asking if they'd be up for coming up with a soundtrack to watching rail cables dance. So I sent a load of musicians this idea, and most of them, they got back in touch saying they'd be up for it, which really blew my mind. So I tried to suit the musicians to the different seasons. The winter selection was going to be dark, eerie, quite intense sounds, and so I picked my little group of people that I thought would be good for that. The first musician was Scanner, who I first read about, actually, before I heard any of his stuff, in a book by David Toop called Ocean of Sound. I remember reading about Scanner, whose real name is Robin Rimbaud, playing with these bits of equipment that could pick up radio waves, and so he would tap into people's conversations, phone conversations in the early 90s, and he would transmit them through a PA in the back rooms of clubs. I just remember reading about it and thinking it sounded so interesting. What a beautiful way of using technology to really create a new, a different way of doing art. I thought it was really beautiful. I think the first piece I heard by him was Mass Observation, which was like a cornerstone of ambient sound, beautiful. It was just gorgeous, and I remember Bjork sampled it for Possibly Maybe. There was a nice little story about how Robin Rimbaud had to get in touch with her or her company and say, look, you've sampled my tune and you've not really paid me any royalties, but he was such a big fan of Bjork that he felt a bit bad doing it all, and then anyway, it all sorted out. But I messaged Scanner, and I was so surprised when he got back in touch and said he was up for it. I thought it was amazing. I think I was still in shock the day after he said he'd be up for it, and he'd sent me through the tune that second day. He was like, here you are, it's done. I had a mad session last night where I really cracked on with it and did it pretty much in one take. He did it all on this keyboard, this new synthesizer that he'd got, which there's a video of him up on YouTube playing that particular synthesizer, and it's a real beautiful piece of kit by the look of it. And yeah, he did this thing all in one go. It's a lovely 19-minute piece which goes through a heck of a lot of parts, a lot of them sounding so rhythmic and reminiscent of a train and the way a train sounds and things, but it's all done on this one synth. And I couldn't believe it. They did it all in one night. It sounds so beautiful. The next act that I asked to do some stuff, when we used to live down in Manchester 10 years ago, I played in a band called Half Seed, and we used to jam. Well, we shared a practice spot with a band called Nod. Nod have always been so inspirational in the way they just constantly put out art. They're always willing to get stuck in trying completely different new things. And so I messaged them asking if any of them would be interested in contributing to the winter selection, with it being very dark and moody. And at the time, Paddy, who was also running his cassette label, Tesla Tapes, he was loving playing the saxophone, and he said he would love to do it, so he did it. And with the help of Sam Weaver, who was helping them record all this stuff at the time, and they did such a nice job together of really creating such a dark, moody piece of music, about 10 minutes long, I think, if I remember right. And yeah, the first few minutes is Paddy with the saxophone, then it goes into this lovely ambient chug for a while with some nice sounds recorded over the top of it. It's a real beautiful piece of music with all the static left in that Sam Weaver was able to capture really well, using all his equipment, which I've heard is really, I don't know, state-of-the-art analogy stuff. I don't really know about it all. But anyway, yeah, it was really beautiful what they did. And it was just, yeah, amazing to have one of the Nod people on it. And then later, Negro Branca did some stuff for the Omp selection. But anyway, coming on to that later. So the third person was Ran Slavin. I first heard about Ran Slavin through a Wire CD, the Wire Tapper series. I can't remember how long ago it was, but it was a track called Kiosk in Furades. Furdes? Oh, I might be naming it wrong. Still one of my favourites, actually. I really love it. It's from an album called The Wayward Regional Transmissions, and it's an absolutely fantastic collection of music, lovely cut-up, strange electronica. I couldn't find much about this guy online, Ran Slavin, at first, and I think I got an email address from a Tumblr account or something, so I sent him this email not knowing who he was or whether I'd get a message back, and yeah, really quick, he got back in touch. I think it was the same day. It turns out he's based in Israel, and he was up for it again. He thought it was a great idea. He said he'd crack on with some stuff, and he sent over 3 tracks. They really do give the nicest sort of vibe of being stood on a train station platform at the end of the night in winter when it's freezing cold, pissing it down with rain, snowing even, and you're about to get onto the warm carriage and be able to just look out at the darkness and see lights in the distance, you know. Like, Ran Slavin is just such an amazing dude now. He cracks on with so much stuff, so much beautiful artwork. He's made a film recently called Call for Dreams, which looks so beautiful. The imagery in that, it just looks absolutely gorgeous. I have no idea what it's about. I've not seen it yet. You can't stream it online, and it's only being played at film festivals by the looks of it at the moment. I think it's going to be coming over to England later on in the year to be played at a film festival down in London, which I'm really excited for. But yeah, so anyway, that's Ran Slavin. And then the last person was Greg Fox, who blew my mind because he was the inspiration for the whole project. And as soon as he was the first person I messaged because he was the inspiration behind it all. And he got it. He really understood the idea and he wanted to get involved. And I didn't realise, it's quite funny really, because I'd only heard the Mitral Transmissions through the Data Garden label. I didn't realise that Greg Fox was actually this fucking amazing drummer. It was my friends who said, whoa, you've got Greg Fox, who's the drummer of Liturgy, the black metal band, also the drummer of Guardian Alien, with, I can't remember her name. I know she goes under the name Earth Eater nowadays, but yeah, he did some music with her, and he did music with Z's, or Zus, some beautiful jazzy stuff. And then of course he does his own beautiful just drum manipulation, synchronized electronic-y stuff. So he's a bit of a prolific, fucking amazing drummer. And yeah, he was up for it. We met up with him pretty soon after because he was over in Leeds playing with Ben Frost. He plays with him, and we went to watch him, and a beautiful little twist of fate. It turned out Stephen Bishop, who runs Opal Tapes, was actually supporting them, and I'd just asked Stephen Bishop if he'd be up for mastering the release, which he did, and yeah, so we all met up in Leeds and went for some beers, which was really lovely. And so yeah, Greg Fox sent over a few tracks in the same vein as Mitral Transmissions. I keep saying Mitral, I don't know which one it is. And yeah, his contributions are absolutely beautiful too. So as far as the graphic design for the Rail Cables Winter Selection goes, when I lived in Manchester 10 years ago and we played some gigs with Nod and people like that, there was a great promoter called Kieran Cullen. I did a thing called What God Forgot, and originally, it was always exciting to see his posters because they were always really beautiful. In the beginning, they were mainly designed by him Hallows, great illustrator. I remember they started looking very different and just as beautiful, but really interesting graphic design, and it turned out it was these people called Dr. Me. They would mess with loads of collages and did some really beautiful stuff. I remember going over to meet them and chat about all this stuff, and the day I went across, I looked onto them on YouTube to see if I could find anything, just to see what other stuff by them, and they'd done a video for Dutch Uncles, the Manchester-based band, and for a track called No Metto, and that was beautiful. I remember being blown away by that. So I went over and met up with them, and we chatted about it, and they said they were up for doing it. So they came up with this beautiful cover collage, and sort of has the effect of going down a tunnel, the circles going into the centre, and then they did this kind of overlaid train track thing. And at the time, I was like, it was the first record I was going to get made up, so I was thinking how we could make it pretty interesting. I was really inspired by the Pan label, which is run by Bill Cooligas. They were putting out these amazing 12 inches that had these printed overlaid bags, and so when Dr. Me sent over this design of theirs, I thought, gosh, we could really sort of separate the train track from the circles and do it as a printed overlay, and they loved the idea, so we went for it. And then on the back, we used that the fact that we had the printed overlaid bags, they put all the information printed onto the plastic sleeve, and they used the font from the train tickets, National Rail, and then also on the inner sticker on the records, we used the National Rail logo. That was going to be something that went across all the record, but didn't end up doing that. But yeah, and so Dr. Me did these amazing covers for them, which you can see now. I think I'm holding them up, pretending to talk, pretending to sync my own voice. So there you go, Rail Cables winter selection. Next one is spring selection, and I hope you've enjoyed this crazy little video.